Thanks very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to be in Warsaw. I have already spent a week attending the conference across the road, and I'm particularly pleased to have an input in the organization of the ProHealth Symposium today. This is our first event, and I'm very pleased that we have started with Poland, and I'm particularly pleased and grateful, in fact, to Professor Ilias and his team for organizing this event. What is ProHealth? ProHealth is a European Union funded project. It's a 5-year project. It started on the 1st of December, so we are 1 year and a half into the project. It is more or less 12 million euros, so it's quite a large project, and it consists of 22 partners, one of which, of course, is the university here. And it is coordinated by Newcastle University, which is in the United Kingdom and where I am based. And if you are interested to see what we are doing, this is our website. Now, we span a number of European countries. You can see that Poland is very important in our activities, but this doesn't mean that we do not involve other countries within Europe. For example, although we do not have a German partner, we are using German data for some of our purposes. And this is the lucky ProHealth team. This is, okay, up a little bit higher, okay. This is the photograph taken from our first annual meeting in Segovia, and it has been a pleasure to collaborate with all these people. Now, what are production diseases? In some of the European languages, there is the problem of defining production diseases. So I will give you the definition we prefer in the project, and I'm sure that you will adapt this definition to the Polish situation. So production diseases are diseases that tend to persist in livestock systems and become more prevalent or severe as the productivity of the system increases. So this means that production diseases are more prevalent in intensive systems of production rather than extensive systems of production. As you will know, production diseases have a great impact in the European Union, but also worldwide, in terms of the sustainability, the profitability, and the environmental impact of the systems. And actually, it is because of these production diseases, which are not epidemic, that are responsible for the use of antibiotics in the food chain. And for this reason, the European Union considers them very important for the context of sustainable intensification. And just to make life easier, you are all familiar with examples of production diseases. So we include the metabolic diseases, we include skeletal problems, we include respiratory gastrointestinal diseases, and in some cases it's not always clear what a production disease is or is not. For example, the classic question is whether necrotic enteritis is a production disease or not. We consider it that it is, because as the system becomes more intensive, necrotic enteritis prevalence increases. Now, the approach that was taken so far about production diseases was either to focus on the pathogenicity of the agent or to focus on the genetic susceptibility of the host. The European Union, for example, in the previous framework program, spent a lot of money to identify which pig or poultry genotypes are resistant to parasitic diseases. However, in reality, for most diseases, and especially for production diseases, there are a lot of interacting factors which determine whether an animal which is subject to an infectious or a metabolic challenge will develop the disease. And I will give you an old example, but I think it's a very, very nice example of what happens in pigs. This is one of the most frequent production disease, the post-weaning diarrhea in pigs. And these are pigs which are kept at 21 degrees centigrade, either on a constant temperature, 21 degrees throughout, or on a mean 21 degrees plus minus 4 degrees. So the temperature fluctuates. And you can see when the temperature fluctuates, the prevalence and the duration of diarrhea increases, whereas when it is constant, it's less severe. So in reality, we need a more holistic approach to production diseases of pigs and poultry, and this is exactly what we are trying to do in ProHealth. So the approach we are taking is that we are actually addressing all three contributors to the production diseases. So we are addressing the animal, we are addressing the environment, and of course we are addressing the pathogen. And I will give you an example of which aspects of the animal or which aspects of the environment we are looking at. So we consider the genotype of the animal, but we give quite a lot of emphasis in the early life experience of the animal, both prenatally and postnatally. We give great emphasis on the resistance and tolerance to the challenges, and of course we give emphasis on the previous experience to the pathogens. In terms of the environmental factors, we look at the usual things that you would expect. So we look at nutrition, we look at management, and we look at the environmental stressors. And I would give you only one example because my colleagues are going to elaborate much more on these issues. I will give you one example that we take in poultry. This example comes from the work of my colleagues in Copenhagen, and it's a very nice work because it addresses the issue of non-outbreak related mortalities in broilers. Jens Peter Christensen will elaborate more on that, and of course it's his area of expertise, and it comes from his team. So the problem is that in poultry, food pad integrity declines throughout the production system, and risk factors that are associated with this issue include litter quality, of course. It includes intensive production systems, and this is more prevalent in heavy breeds or meat-type breeds. At the same time, you see an increase in the non-outbreak related mortality, mainly due to septicemic infections in the late production period. They increase. So the hypothesis that has been put forward by our Danish colleagues is that food pad lesions serve as a port of entry for systemic or localized bacterial infections, which is quite a reasonable hypothesis, and the way they are doing this it will be described by Jens Peter. It's through an artificial challenge with bacterial cocci. Now, ProHealth is structured into 9 work packages, and you will get a flavor as you go along during the day of how the project is structured. We have 3 experimental work packages, which are addressing different aspects of production diseases, neonatal survival, genotype and health effects, the role of the farm environment, and we then produce material for a diagnostic work package because we use novel diagnostic technologies. We also have two very important work packages, one of which has a great input from the university here. This is the epidemiological factor, which looks at risk factors and associations between diseases. And we also have a socioeconomic work package, because the European Union now believes that anything we do in terms of controls, it needs to have social acceptability. Okay? So what do we address? This is my penultimate slide. We address the extent of and the risk factors associated with the diseases. So effectively, this is an epidemiological work package. We address the biological basis of the production diseases at different levels. So effectively, this deals with diagnostics. At what level do we need to look for diagnostics? We address the influence of genotype and how this is modified by pre- or pronatal experiences, the influence of the environment, including nutrition, management, etc., on the development and persistence of the production diseases. And we hope to develop practical controls of production diseases in order to improve health and welfare, and our hope is that some of these controls will be tested in various European countries, including Poland. And importantly, and you have received a questionnaire from my colleague Jarkko Niemi from Finland, we need to look at the social acceptability and the economic consequences of the proposed interventions to control diseases. So what does the European Union want from us? Because they are our paymasters. Of course, the first one is quite easy, because they want an understanding of the various factors involved in the diseases. That's very easy. They want development of multifactorial control strategies. That's very important. Strategies that address all components of the system. I emphasize that because they emphasize that. They want us to develop strategies that have economic and social acceptability for these controls. And of course, the ultimate aim to increase the competitiveness and resilience of the European Union of pig and poultry production systems. So welcome to the first symposium by ProHealth, and I hope that you will enjoy it. And if you want to see what we are doing, come back to our website. Thank you very much.